Welcome to another Freecodecamp algorithm. We are in the JavaScript intermediate algorithm scripting, and the one we are going to be looking at today is called the sorted union. So let's check this out. Let me read the directions for us real quick. Write a function that takes two or more arrays and returns a new array of unique values in the order of the original provided arrays. In other words, all values present from all arrays should be included in their original order, but with no duplicates in the final array. The unique numbers should be sorted by their original order, but the final array should not be sorted in numerical order. Check the assertion test for examples. All right. Let's bring their code over to our editor. Now, hopefully you guys understood what the directions were. Pretty much in this one, the output should be an array of 1 comes first, then 3, then 2, 5, 2 already exists, I'm not gonna add it there, 1 exists, 4 doesn't exist, 2 and 1 exists. So this should be the output, 1, 3, 2, 5, 4. We have to preserve that order. So there is an issue with this algorithm though. I don't know if they did this intentionally or if it was a mistake, but either way, let me show you guys the quote unquote issue. Let me console log our parameter, this R. Let's see what that is for this example here. I'm gonna run this code real quick and notice what we get. Let me zoom in. We get 132. So we only, the way that they have presented the problem, we only have access to the 0th index, the first array. So I don't know if this was a mistake on their end or they're trying to trick us, but either way, we have ways to circumvent this. So if we are using a traditional function notation like this and not an arrow notation like so, we can use this thing called the argument keyword. Let me console log what that is. It's arguments with an S. And again, this only works in a traditional function notation like what we have. Later on, I will show you guys how to do it with an arrow notation too. But notice what we get. We get an object that's called arguments, and it's pretty much a key value pair. The keys are the indexes, and the values are the arrays of the parameter. So how do we, what I'm trying to make from this, what I think is the easiest to work with is how do we convert those parameters into an array that has each of the individual array like so. This is what I'm trying to build here, an array of arrays in a way. So let's try to build this. We gotta first take this arguments object and make it into what I have described here. We have two options of doing this. We could either do, let me just do this, const array of arrays, R of R's. And this, one way to destructure this arguments object into this shape that I have described here is to use capital array dot from the arguments like so. I don't think I need to spread it actually. I could just leave it as arguments. Let me console log what R of R is. Let's get rid of the first console log. Let's see what this is. And we get a missed error because array is spelled with 2 R's, not 3. And we pretty much get what we want here. Now, this is one way to get it in this form. Another way, which I think is more convenient, is, and shorter I mean, put an array bracket outside of the arguments and just spread it like so. This is called a spread operator here. It pretty much separates all the arguments into comma separated values, and we are putting it in here. So it is putting this one, comma, the second array, comma, and the third array. That's what this does. Let's console log and make sure we get the same thing. Yes, we do. Now what we want to do is we want to loop over each of our array inside here, and we want to build an array that will have all the unique values in that order. So the way that I am going to do that is this. We are going to first declare an output variable, which is going to be initialized as an empty array, and we're going to build this up depending on if it's a unique value or not. So let's do a for loop. I'm going to do a for loop of, we could either do a traditional for loop, like let I is 0, I is less than r.length, and so on. But in this case, I think it would be cleaner for us to use a for of loop. I'm going to do for const array of r of r's, because we know that each of the element in this r of r's is an array. So that's what I'm going to do here. Now, our variable that we're iterating over is that our iteration is now an array. So we have to do another for loop within this inner array and check each index, check each element inside of it. And if it's unique, put it inside our output. So let's do that. I am going to do another for loop, another for of loop, const, we will say number of r. So now our number variable will take place of all of these elements inside the inner array. So we will do this. How do we check? We only want to push our number into our output if it doesn't already exist on output. So how do we do that? We could just use a convenient array method called includes. We could say if output does not, let me put an exclamation point because I want to say not. If output does not includes our number, meaning this num variable is not found within our output, then we want to do something. And what we want to do exactly is we want to push to our output our number because we know it is unique. So if it's not unique, we will just do nothing. We will let the for loop continue on. Let's see what we get for this. And as a matter of fact, I'm just going to return the output and console log the result of our function call, hoping we get one, I think it was 13254. Let me erase this. Actually, we'll just keep that there. Yep, we do get 13254. Let me submit this to make sure that Freecodecamp likes it. And they do. Now I want to do a little bit of refactoring. So in big O notation, we call this a quadratic O to the n squared because we have a for loop outside and a for loop inside. So this is a quadratic big O notation, O to the n squared. We could optimize this and we could make this a O to the n, meaning we only have one for loop. So how would we do that? How about instead of working with a shape that looks like this, why don't we, dealing with an array of arrays, why don't we destructure in a way all the arrays inside it and just make all elements comma separated value like so. Whoops, not Q. Like so. Then we could just loop over this single array and not do a for loop within a for loop. So how do we transform this object here into this? So we have the array of arrays in this variable here, r of r's, and I want to convert that to this. And what should we call that? We could say r of all elements, r of all else. So what we can do to transform this to this, we could do a for loop, but that's not really giving us a better option. And what I'm gonna do here is I am going to use a reduce function. So a reduce function takes an array and transforms it, reduces it to whatever shape we want it to. In our case, we want to reduce it to a single array, not an array of arrays, but a single array. So we're going to get our R of R's reduce, call reduce on it, and it takes a function inside as a first parameter, and as a second parameter it takes the initial value of what's called an accumulator. Let me just ignore that for now. The function has two parameters and we're going to use two required parameters. The first one is what's called the accumulator, ACC for short. The second one is the element that we're looping over. In our case, each of our elements within R of R's are arrays. So I'm gonna call this, I could call it R. I don't want to use ARR here because our parameter of this function is ARR. So there's like a conflict there. So how about we call this current R, like so. Now, accumulator is like a memory variable. It keeps track of what its value is throughout the iteration, and the output of this becomes the value of whatever this reducer function is. So, and what we initialize is the initial value of our accumulator variable here, and we're gonna say it's gonna start out as an empty array. And the return of this function inside inner function here will become the value of the accumulator in the next iteration. So what we want to do is we want our accumulator to equal spread everything that the accumulator had and then spread the current array like this. So let me explain you guys what is going on here. Let me do it here. So our accumulator starts out as this. Now our current R in our first iteration will equal, for this example, this. And then it will spread the accumulator, which was an empty array. So when you spread an empty array, you get nothing. And then it spreads the first first array, which is this. What that value is 1, 3, 2. That's what it becomes. So after our first iteration, accumulator is equal to this. Then within our second iteration, it spreads the accumulator, which is 1, 3, 2. So we just put 1, 3, 2. And then, and I'm just putting a space here for emphasis, and then it spreads the next iteration, which is 5, 2, 1, 4. 2, 1, 4. And finally, it spreads the current accumulator in the final iteration and spreads the current array, like so. So this is what we end up with. Now, we could just loop over this array of all elements. So we could say, let const R of all else erase the for loop inside. I'm gonna tab this inwards and I'm gonna say if output includes, and instead of const R of array of all else, each element within this variable that we have introduced is just a number. So we could just replace that with number and everything else should work. Let's see if that works. It seems like it. So this is a little bit more optimal than the other solution we had because it's O to the N. Let's run a test and it works. Now I'm going to show you another way we can try to tackle this. I wasn't sure about the way that I'm going to show you now, but let me just show you and explain to you what I wasn't so sure of. So we have this new thing in JavaScript called the set. So let me read it from this MDN here. The set object lets you store unique values of any type, whether primitive values or object references. So you make a set by calling it a new set constructor, and inside you put in an array, an iterable object. And what it does is it gets rid of all the duplicates and makes a unique set of elements from it. So let's see. Let's try using this. What we can do is, instead of, notice we're spreading everything, and our array of all else becomes just a very long array of all the elements, right? Why don't we try making a set out of this? So I'm gonna erase this part here, and I'm gonna say const set, lowercase set is equal to a new set. We give an iterable array inside, which happens to be an array of all else. And let's see what the result is. I'm going to console log the set. We get ignore this undefined, it's just from this. Set is a set, this weird thingy, with 1, 3, 2, 5, 4. So it seems like, if you notice here, it got that long array of all the elements and just stripped out all the duplicates. And it appears that it preserved the order too. So this is one thing that I was afraid of with using sets. I don't know how they deal with the order, but at least from this, it seems like it preserved the order. So, but this is not an array. The output though needs to be an array. So how do we make an array out of this? We can just do this, and I'm gonna return the result of that. We could either do array.from a set, that will give us an array, or just like before, we could spread it in an array, empty an array, and that will give us an array. Let's see if this works. Let's submit it. Run the test, and it works. So what I was not sure of was if the new set preserves the order. But at least in the examples, the test that they have, it seems to pass. So I'm still not 100% confident that it will preserve the order, but it appears that it does. Now, let's say we wanted to use not a traditional function notation, but an arrow function. So let's try doing that. Const unite unique is equal to an array. Since we only have one parameter, I could get rid of the parentheses and do that. Put an arrow function there. This, however, will not work. And the reason is, within an arrow function, it does not know what an argument's keyword is. So for arrow functions, we have to use something else. Let me just prove it to you. Let me console log. Actually, let's just see what the result of this is. Yeah, see, we get an error here. So the reason for that is because we don't have access to this arguments keyword within an arrow function. We have to use something else. And what they recommend is this. If you don't know how many parameters you're gonna have, what they recommend you is just spread the parameters here, and we will call that args. So now our args variable, let me show you guys. So let me comment that out. If I console log args, by the way, this name could be anything. It could be ABC, it could be whatever you want, but I'm just gonna call it args. We get pretty much all of our parameters encapsulated in an array. So that's how, in ES6, that's how they want you to tackle these type of problems. So let me uncomment this, erase the console log. And so we can do the same thing here. Spread the args instead of the arguments. Let's see if we get the correct results. It appears that we do. So how can we shorten this a little bit more? What we can do is just put this, because we're using this variable only here, we could get this, put it here, like so. And I don't recommend this, but I just want to try this out. Since array of all else, we only use it once here when making a set, why don't we get what is equal to, and just put it inside here. Very ugly. I don't recommend this, but it's just fun to do this times time. Now we have this, we declare this const and we immediately spread it right after. So why don't we put a parentheses here and get what the set is equal to and do that. Get rid of the semicolon and erase that part. The reason why I put a parentheses after the spread is because we're doing a new set. I don't want to spread the keyword new. I want to spread the result of this new set constructor. That's why I put the parentheses here. Now, because we technically only have one statement inside this function, we could just erase the return and the curly braces and do this like so. Like so. I'm going to try to pretty this up a little bit. And also notice within our reduce function, we only have 192. So we could do the same thing here. Get rid of the return and the curly braces and keep it like that. Let's see if that works. Yep, it seems like it works. Let's see if Freecodecamp likes this answer. And it does. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining me again. Today we did sorted union in Freecodecamp. And the next time we meet, we'll be doing the convert HTML entities. So if you haven't checked this one out yet, I highly suggest you check it out. Click subscribe below, click the bell icon, click like if you like the video. And I will see you guys next time where we tackle the convert HTML entities. Thank you guys so much and have a good day.